Welcome everyone to a session of IWIN, the Illinois Work-Based Learning Innovation Network. I'm Heather Pensack, the Director of Innovation Implementation here with Ed Systems. And what we're kicking off today is, there's a lot of folks really thinking about CDEs, those career development experiences, and really want to highlight all the different models and ways that you can address that, requirement within the college and career pathway endorsement, or just generally providing that really robust, high quality experience for young people. So today we're going to focus in on school-based enterprises. We have a community here who's going to share about their practices, their models, ask them questions, get in the weeds with them, ask them all kinds of, how did you design something? How did you think about it? Why did you do this versus something else? Really want to use this space for engaging and talking about this type of model. But we'd love to also know who's here today, right? So just use the chat. Please go ahead and introduce yourself, but also so that myself, Joe would be sharing about his models. If you could just put any questions, if you have things kind of top of mind for you about those school-based enterprises, if you're just literally like, what are they? I'm going to do a quick intro here and utilize some definitions, references, even from the ISB Work-Based Learning Manual and some of those resources there. Some of you might be super familiar using that all the time, others maybe not, but I'll share that here. And again, just a reminder in terms of that background noise, this definitely, if you've been to an IWIN session before, it is very much about asking questions, engaging with one another, getting connections even going within the chat, utilizing the expertise of our community who's going to be sharing here today. So if I mute you again, you can very much unmute yourself. At some point, we're asking questions, but please also feel free to use the chat, right? We'll be monitoring that, taking a look at it. And again, good to see you all. Hey, Kina, always wonderful to see you. All right, well, I don't see any questions necessarily in the chat yet. I see, okay, yes, Cassie, those best practices for ensuring they meet the work-based learning definition, definitely. Which is kind of going to be a focus here, or not kind of, it is the focus of these sessions when we're going to highlight different CDE models, is going over again what that definition is of a CDE, and then showing how school-based enterprises and other models that we'll continue to highlight through IWIN really do meet that expectation and that definition. All right, I think most of you on the call are pretty familiar with IWIN, but again, this really is a network here to look at, explore those really innovative models for work-based learning, really engage in what is high quality. So yes, it meets the definition within the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary, but how are we really thinking about, access? How are we thinking about equity? How are we thinking about building social capital for young people and getting these experiences to young people who might not have access without us providing that and getting our systems and structures in place to do so. My favorite part though, is really just the connections among communities that happen within IWIN. There's all kinds of conversations that happen outside of IWIN sessions that I'm looped into, I'm not looped into, and I love that, right? I just love the connections here. But very much you all have been a key place as we think about policy, support systems, what that looks like. Your voices have really been key for us to understand that. And as our different state agency partners and folks around these calls, also very helpful to understand that. So we have a look at this fancy graphic here, work-based learning continuum. It's getting fancy, but we are really looking at that full continuum and career development experiences here. You can kind of see as that fourth hexagon. I had to remember my geometry shape there for a minute. That really is where you're getting on the continuum. So in best practice, before students are engaging in this, they would have had career exploration, those job shadows, guest speakers. They would have done team-based challenges where they're doing those problem-based, student-driven inquiry with industry mentorship. But the piece here too, as you look at this bottom, is really thinking about what the roles are, right? So managing organization, really broad term for just who is the organization, whether it's a school, a community-based partner, kind of providing this opportunity. And you can see as you move along the continuum, their role is always still there, but you really start to move into that host role, that industry partner, where they're really engaging more intentionally and more intensely in this experience to mentor and guide young people through the work-based learning. But also just want to shout out Sarah Clark on our team who has made this beautiful work-based learning continuum. And so putting this up here again as a reminder or, just information, getting us all in the same context, same language for those of you who may have not seen this before. But within, the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary, within expectations for your college and career pathway endorsement, there's this career development experience, or CDE. And it really is, again, like if you have an experience that meets these definitions, these 6 components, then it is qualifying as a career development experience, right? So workplace, authentic working conditions, co-developed education and industry, there's compensation, or there's educational credit, or both. I've had the question too sometimes that it can be both, right? Students could be getting credit and paid. It really reinforces those professional skills, right? Definitely thinking about those essential ones that are cross-cutting. So if a young person goes into a CDE and it's like, never mind, I don't want to do this job one day, I don't even want to be in this field, they at least would have gained those essential skills that they can apply to another field. It has that professional skills assessment that really is, again, a feedback tool between that young person, their instructor, their employer mentor. And then there's the 60 total hours, right? So there's some things like clinical experiences that are typically about 40 hours that communities have been figuring out how to adjust and make 60 hours, right? So it is that 60-hour piece within there as well. But just want to again say, like, CDs are more commonly known as other things, right? Internships, school-based enterprises, which we'll talk about today, your SAEs, your supervised ag experiences, cooperative education, which I keep on there because I know it's a term folks have been used to, but those are, again, those workplace experience courses, thinking about remote work, student-led enterprises, clinical experiences. And so these are going to be really a key focus of IWIN moving forward here is going to be unpacking kind of each of these different types of models. And to Cassie's comment, even in the chat, how do they meet that definition of a CDE so that you could incorporate them into your offerings of CDEs, right? If we're really thinking about how we scale this, how we meet the needs of all students, there's going to need to be different models of CDEs available and offered for young people. And there's lots of resources here. I put the presentation in the chat, but I'm just going to put it in here one more time in case you came in afterwards. And within the notes within this document, you can access the toolkit, which is a bunch of pieces for you, templates and guides, and the Career Pathways Dictionary, which has the definitions all across the continuum that I showed earlier. But from your ISB Work-Based Learning Manual as well, just want to reference this resource, this guidance, right? And when we look at the guidance, pages 30 through 32, want to get you right there in the manual that's linked there at the top. A school-based enterprise is a type of career development experience, right? But you're thinking about this being conducted within a school, but it's replicating a specific business or a segment of the industry. And it really is, again, assisting students and getting that work experience that's related to that chosen career area, right? So it still is like industry specific, looking at what path those students are on. A lot of times what you'll see in school-based enterprises are goods or services being provided that are within the market. And it's also operated by students, right? Typically what you'll see a lot are common standards in marketing, finance, hospitality, management, all being incorporated in there. But as you'll hear from Joe today and the work they're doing at the Collinsville Area Vocational Center, there's a lot of different ways to be thinking about school-based enterprises and the pathways that you can address through those. And this is in the manual as well, but I want to put it up here for us to just start to think through. We'll have some time, to chat as a whole group or maybe break into small groups about how we're maybe currently doing school-based enterprises, how we might be thinking about school-based enterprises. The credit unions one, I just went to a site visit with Kansas City Public Schools, and I'm going to bring them on as they're ready to share about it, but they're going to do a really cool school-based enterprise with a credit union within their school to even help navigate some banking relationships that students and their families may or may not have, right? And kind of address that need, that component within their community. But as you can see on here, there's just a lot of different ways to be thinking about school-based enterprises that are industry specific, or they might seem more broad and you can incorporate multiple kind of career pathways in there, but really just a ton that you can do across all departments within your school. And kind of the last piece here, before I move over to our community to share with you all, is when you think about school-based enterprises and you think about, again, your variety of offerings for career development experiences, what is the why, right? So as you have these different models of CDEs, why do you have them? School-based enterprises, can address your barriers such as transportation, right? If they're within your school, within your building, even within, as Joe will share, within your career centers, right? Like that transportation piece is not as big of a concern as you're thinking about where am I going to get the student to, how are they going to get there, right? You're owning that more in-house. But also thinking about your industry partners who might not have the capacity to offer CDEs in-house. So even if you could get the transportation there, maybe they're fully remote, or maybe they have a small office, or maybe there's, they have some liability safety concerns, things they're not ready to navigate with yet, although they could navigate it likely. But they could still engage with you within these school-based enterprises, but not have that worry or that lack of ability to actually offer them in-house, but it could potentially build towards it. You can also think about your students, right? So what are their needs? There's students who may be more comfortable with or even require that one-on-one support from school staff, as well as those industry mentors. You can really, again, having this in-house, having it be embedded within a course and just part of their course experience. So now you're really thinking about students who might not be able to go to a CDE that's outside of school, whether that's before or after regular school hours. They really are completing this within a school day. But also it really does still support career exploration, right? So if I'm a student and I think like I really want to be like in autos, right? But even within my auto school-based enterprise, I'm having to market our services to the community. I might start to realize like, I actually really like this marketing part of it, right? Like I'm passionate about the automotive industry, but I also see myself playing this role in marketing, right? And kind of having a balance there. So it's a really cool experience too for that career exploration piece. And as always with IWIN, I really just love to give you a whole bunch of resources and things to kind of continue to look at after the session. But we have a couple of previous sessions. We had a school from Porterville, California. They came in and talked about school-based enterprises they're doing with energy conservation and really focusing in on the school and also community advocacy. So it very much encourage you to check that out, the recording, the presentation. But Leiden High School, and I see Frank on the call here too, they were recently presenting at our Success Network conference, and they shared about their why for the school-based enterprises, but also about their different models and resources there. In the middle, there's a few links there that are also included in the ISB Work-Based Learning Manual. Just again, great toolkits, great guides, great just things to inspire and get you thinking about school-based enterprises and also implementing them. The University of Illinois, as we think about, the point two of students who might really need or benefit or require that support. During COVID, they started doing like research and case studies on, students who were now fully remote and had IEPs who didn't have access to their school-based enterprises. So would encourage you to look at their case study, their research briefs about school-based enterprises and how they can really support students with IEPs to engage in this high quality career development experience. And also from our CDE toolkit, there's a resource there that has participant task examples by the pathway endorsement area. So again, just some inspiration for you if you're trying to think about what could a school-based enterprise be, what could it look like? This resource has just some different tasks and pieces that you could build out a school-based enterprise from. And then also the CDE design template as you're trying to put this to paper and really think about what a school-based enterprise might look like. But with that, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Joe to share with you all about the Collinsville Area Vocational Center and their work.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Joe McGinnis. I'm the director here at the Collinsville Area Vocational Center. Before we get started, digging into these slides, Heather shared some great information, and really what drives our big push into school-based enterprises are those hurdles for students, transportation, and time availability, especially working with high school students that may have quite a few extracurricular activities, whether it's sports, clubs, things like that. All of those things eat into the time for their other classes and time into the workplace. So as we go through our programs and we evaluate them every year, we don't look and see, okay, how can we get 60 hours of work-based learning for a program? We look to see how we can get full integration to where it's essentially built into the class and it's something that those students are experiencing every single day. So we shoot for that. Usually we start hey, what are some small things that we can implement into a class or a program? Probably not going to get us to that 60 hours, but it starts us down the road. And once you get started and you start implementing small things, that's what drives the thought process. So those are just some things to think about as we talk through these programs. But first, I'll give you a quick rundown on CAVC. For some of you may know, some of you may not. There are 24 area vocational centers in the state of Illinois. We are one of those 24 located in Collinsville, which is about in the Metro East, which is about 20 minutes from St. Louis. We serve 9 high schools in our area: Pacific Memorial, Collinsville, Dupo, East Alton, Edwardsville, Highland, Lebanon, Muscuda, and Triad. Currently for this year, we have 440 juniors and seniors, which is a full house. We're opening up a dental assisting program next year. That'll take us up to about 520 seats. And we had 700 requests for those 520 seats. It's a great problem to have, but obviously we want to serve as many students as we possibly can. And then next slide here, we got a quick rundown of our current programs that we offer. We do not have school-based enterprises in all of them. It's a kind of a gradual process to integrate that as we go. But the ones that we do have, they run great and really give the students a great experience into what it is like to be in a as close to real life yet still simulated job experience. So our first one that we'll talk about is in our automotive program. So we have a auto mechanics class. We also have an auto body class. And in both instances, we do what is live work, which is considered as it's like a normal auto shop. But before we do that, for the first month of school, we hit safety, tool identification, and then get through on our own school-owned vehicles. We run through what are the kind of those initial things that students are going to see a lot of work on: oil changes, tire rotations, changing tires, alignments, and then on the auto body side, we do a lot of paint correction, taking fogged out headlights and turning them clear again, dent repair, and then we start small with some partial paint jobs, and then by the end of the year, we're doing full on paint jobs where sometimes we're cutting body panels and rocker panels off of cars, welding on new, and completely redoing some of these vehicles. So the first thing is getting those students ready, and it's a mindset, because I'm sure, as you all know, you're going to have a percentage of your students that are very highly motivated. This is a career that they want, and they're hungry and they work hard. You're going to have another percentage of students that are interested, and this is kind of their exploratory pathway to see if this is their career, and it probably will be. You have a group that just likes working on cars in this instance, and they wanted to learn some more about it. And then we also have a group that thought they wanted to be in this industry, got into the course, realized they did not want to be in the industry, and we still have them in that class. So the juggling act is taking all of those different levels of student interest, of student engagement, and blending them so that you have a productive program. And we do that with a lot of leadership skills for our top end students to be essentially their own little shop manager. We team teach a lot of things, and we usually have a strong student incorporated into all of our groups to where they become that team leader. And it's a great thing to teach the students, is those soft skills. When we get work in for this program specifically, we have the students talk to the customer being usually a staff member. Here at CAVC, we're an attached vocational center, so we are attached to Collinsville High School. That gives us access to another 230 staff. So when you have at any given time 250 to 300 cars for your staff members, there's plenty of work to always be done. So usually the first thing is if a staff member drops keys off in the office, that's an option for them, but most of the time we send students to that staff. They pick up the keys, ask what the problem is. The student goes and gets the car, takes it over to the auto shop. They do the work, come back with a job sheet, and they return those keys and that job sheet to the staff member, explain what they did, explain if they found anything else. And our next step moving forward on this is following industry. Right now in industry, if you are taking a vehicle, whether it's on the mechanic side or the auto body side, they're called digital vehicle inspections. So as the technicians are performing their work, they have an iPad and they're taking pictures on that iPad. Those print automatically onto the bill and the repair sheet. So that's something we're going to be integrating next year, because every time the auto industry is notorious for that, they're in constant change and constant innovation, and probably one of the hardest ones to keep up with. But that's always our goal with our programs, is to maintain as close to industry as we possibly can. Then we'll head into building trades. So we do have a building trades class in our program, which those students build a house. And traditionally the program had been run where the home construction took 2 years. It is a 2-year program for students that come in as a junior, are able to stay as seniors. Our goal has been over the past 3 years is to shrink that timeline down. And we want to take what was once a 2-year project and turn it into a single school year project. So we're looking to get to a 9-month build. Right now, the house that you see on the screen, we sold that last May. That was our COVID house. It took 3 years because it sat for about 7 months while everyone was out of school. Thankfully, it was in a good spot in the construction. It was dried in so that it could sit. But since then, we finished that house. The current one we're working on, we're at a 13-month timeline. So we still have to shave 4 months off of that process. And what we found is I came from a residential construction background, so coming in, kind of being able to evaluate the program and seeing where our hurdles were. A lot of it comes down to having the proper equipment to make the students as efficient as possible, and that turns into us purchasing a dump truck, a skid loader, so that we can perform our own dirt work. That way, we're not waiting on contractors. Not calling in favors and having someone donate some work, which is not going to be at the top of their priority list. So there was times when we were waiting a week and a half, 2 weeks to have some work performed. That was kind of holding our process up. So integrating as much as we can in-house, and then also giving our students and staff the ability to be successful has been key to shrinking that timeline so far. And we've still got a couple steps left, but a 9-month build time to where our students will see a house start from the foundation, and then by the end of the year it'll be finished, is our goal, because we do get a fair amount of students that are coming in as seniors, so they're only seeing 1 year of the process. They're only getting a taste of what that home construction looks like, and we want them to see all the aspects. Rochelle, great question there. So our typical house that we target we like doing ranch style. It's a lot safer when the students are roofing for them to be on a single story versus a 2-story home. Everybody's tied off and safe to begin with, but for students that it's the first time on the roof, productivity on a single story versus productivity on a 2-story is drastically different. The nerves take a couple days for them to get over, to feel comfortable up there. So our typical house is a single story, usually between 1,400 and 1,600 square feet on that first level, 3-bedroom, 2-bath on that first level, and then we do a partial finish in the basement. Those range anywhere from 600 to 900 square feet. Includes an additional bedroom and bathroom. If it's a walkout, the bedroom is attached there for the egress. The current house we on is not a walkout, so we do have egress windows in the basement for that. So they end up usually being 4-bed, 3-bath, and they're a great value for the community. We build on infill lots within the city of Collinsville, and we're kind of getting ready to transition as the city of Collinsville has slowed down home demos. The number of infill lots has shrunk. So we actually purchased 2 lots in a neighborhood for the first time. That's going to drastically increase our home sale price. And so what we're able to do there is also increase the technology that we integrate into these homes, trying to stay on the cutting edge of industry. So we're looking at integrating in geothermal for the heating and cooling, solar panels to help offset energy costs. We already built a very tight building envelope, but there's a couple other little things that we can add in there to really cut down on air infiltration, which makes the homes more efficient. And so we're trying to give those students hey, this is what state-of-the-art construction industry is into these homes, and that way they get a great experience of what's coming in the future. Currently, no, we do not integrate any of the business courses into these current building enterprises that we have. It is a dream of ours that on the manufacturing side for our welding machining programs is we're going down the pathway of trying to find a product that we can produce, and we want to become a light manufacturer. So right now we're looking at pallet racking, so storage for a warehouse that they can store pallets on, to where our machining students can produce the parts. Our welding students can then weld everything together, have everything inspected, and then our business classes would be the ones that would kind of perform the sale of those. So we're about a year in on that project, and it's going to take us at least another 1.5 years, 2 years to finalize everything on there. So we'll slide on to our food service. So our food service class, we have foods classes on the high school side. Those at Collinsville High School, those are primarily they're cooking dishes each week and eating those in the class for themselves. On the vocational side, we like to kind of run ours as a simulated restaurant. So each week they come up with a new dish. They price out the dish, figure out what is a proper portion to meet a certain price point. We found that if a lunch option or a take and bake dinner option that we sell to the staff, if we're over $10 to $12 on that take and bake, our sales drop. If we can stay below $8 on a lunch option, it provides us with good sales numbers. If we get over that $8 mark, sales really tank. So as a part of that is, our students are coming up with some pretty creative dishes and really kind of pushing the envelope on the palate of our staff. They got to have that correct price point in order to maintain those sales, because the last thing someone wants to do is spend $10 on a lunch. Maybe it's an Indian cuisine that we're pushing one week, and they've never had Indian, but they're willing to make that jump. They're not going to make that jump at $10 and then get something that they're not going to like. But if we can keep it to a small portion at $5, we see that they're a lot more willing to make that jump. Our typical sales each week range depending on the dish. And so every year, the students evaluate the most popular dishes, and we carry those over and keep them for the next year. We kind of have like a 3-year rotation of if it was a very popular, we'll keep it on the menu for 3 years. A popular dish is we're going to sell 150 to 175 orders that week. The orders come in digitally, and it comes in with the teacher's name, the room number, the time that they would like that dish. And then the students prepare the dish, deliver it, get payment, and then bring that back to the classroom. And then each dish that every week comes out with a review. And so we, it's our own internal version of Yelp, essentially. So we like getting the feedback from the staff on what they like, what they didn't like, and all of that goes into that classroom discussion of, was the dish successful? Did we make money? Did we lose money? If we made money, could we have made more with a different portion size or, a different side offering? We usually have a main course, a side, and then an additional dessert that can be ordered as well. And so just trying to make sure that everything is paired correctly. And then sometimes the class wants to do something fun, and they take a step out of their comfort zone and maybe our staff's comfort zone, and it doesn't go well. And they learn just as much from that as they do from the dishes that do go well. And then throughout the course of the year, they cater a couple large events at the school. The largest one they've had was serving 300 staff. And that was about half of the school district that was coming through at that time. And that was for a nacho taco bar. And so prepping all of that for 300 people, it was a feat. And they did all the prep work and then did all the serving, cleanup, and everything like that. So they really cool experience for those students. And then we'll tackle into education. I was scrambling on the presentation. I was doing great on the pictures until this one. I do apologize. So we have 2 education programs at our school. It used to be just one with an early childhood education program. We split it off last year to have essentially 2 roads to travel. We have early childhood, and we have a K-12 teacher prep program. As a part of the early childhood program, our staff has been running a preschool since the inception of our vocational center in 1971, and very valued in the community, valued by our staff, and really it's a very popular one with our students as well too. Having those 2 through 5-year-olds in the building is a tremendous selling point to get students in and also be able to sell our programs to the community. So we run 2 sessions. Our 4 and 5-year-olds are able to stay for both sessions, which ends up to be the equivalent of a half-day preschool. So about 4.5 to 4 hours and 45 minutes every day. Our 2 and 3-year-olds, we only have them for either the morning session or the afternoon session. And so it's each session we try to keep it to 20 to 21 2 through 5-year-olds. And then we also have between 15 and 22 high school students. And we have 1 staff member that oversees the operation of the preschool. So it's usually pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio of a high school student to an early childhood student. And it is fun to see as they get paired up and they're that student for the whole year, they usually have a really great relationship by the end. And we actually have preschool graduation today, so I'm sure that we get some tears going on as those high school students say bye to the little kids. But it's a really a great program. As the way that we run it is the first week that we have the preschool students in, our staff member runs it, has designed all the lessons, and shows the students, our high school students, how they want operations to run. From then on, we have a high school student that takes over the lead teaching duties each week, and they do all the lesson prep, lesson design, and then pair the jobs with the other high school students for the week. And that rotates throughout the entire year to those students usually get that opportunity 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 times to be that lead instructor. And it's a tremendous value. Right now we're charging the families that send students $60 per semester. So it works out to less than $1 a day in semester 2, just a little bit over $1 a day for semester 1, because we have a few less days in semester 1. But we try to keep the cost low, and it's in each of our programs, that's our main goal is keeping costs down to the people that are sending their vehicles and trusting us to fix it and then go out on the road and keep their family safe, to building the house. We sell it as an auction, but what our goal is that we just get the appraised value of the house, and we're pretty successful with that. So it's all about providing a value to the staff and the community, and then also providing that experience to the students, and kind of driving home that, hey, whenever you're out in the industry, kind of to have that value mindset is. If you are able to provide a value, we do see that we have a more appreciative customer, and that's always nice to have versus someone that's angry. And then on the, I left this off the slide, but we do have a small business course at Collinsville High School, and we are actually in the process of kind of changing the business model on that. Currently, they run a cafe every morning for the first hour where students and staff can get coffee, snacks, and things of that sort. We're going to kind of switch models on that, and next year we're going to be purchasing some vending machines to where the students can pick what they want to stock the vending machines with, whether it's school swag or supplies, food options, drink options, and then that vending machine can be used with Venmo, Cash App, a card, cash. The payment options on it are kind of the biggest thing that we have found is if you're having students purchasing things, cash is usually not an option for them. So it's Venmo and Cash App and PayPal, even less. But so they're going to be designing what is in those machines, and they're able to switch the products in and out. And so kind of the cool thing that they're going to be doing is tailoring the products to the season, based on the weather and also based on what sports are going on at the school at that time. So during football season, they'll have, warm football items that students can purchase and staff can purchase. Basketball season, switching that out, and then getting into the spring, having volleyball, soccer, things of that sort. So it's very cool to see them as we transition that program, and we think it's going to give those students a kind of the next step into a different way to run the business, because as a part of that is there's also a website operation that comes with that they can run. So I ran through them all pretty quick, so if you got questions, feel free to fire away. I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Joe. And that's $60. I don't even want to talk about, I don't know if that covered a day of daycare for me when I was paying for daycare, so I don't want to talk about it, but I just think it's so beautiful, like the way this all is community based, right? And I think about even that vending machine, right? And the swag, and students can engage in that way and get swag and then go to the events. And so you're also highlighting the teams in your school. And it's just, I think that's something that's really, really great about the school based, is where you can bring in that community feel and that culture. And just thank you for all your work.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Is we try to build the community. That's the whole goal of kind of how we view, especially at the vocational centers, we view ourselves as a community building organization. We're providing students with job skills and training. Hopefully they stay within the community and are able to use those skills to help improve the community. So it's just trying to teach those soft skills along the way. It's just as important as the physical knowledge.
Well, this is time for you all. I know I saw some folks come off camera, or come on camera, I guess. So it would welcome y'all to unmute and ask questions here to Joe.
Hello, Joe. My name is Brett Thompson at Naperville Central High School. Thank you for sharing your information. I love that you talked about, thinking beyond just the traditional classic work-based learning, career internship, and thinking about how students can fully integrate into their daily coursework. In other words, like not creating something separate beyond their coursework. How do you, I'm assuming that these experiences count toward the 60-hour internship. Is that correct assumption?
Yeah, and so the way that we evaluate that is it a purchased service or product that is being provided? Anytime that you're going down that road where it's that purchase service or product, that's the same thing that they could go out into the community and get. We are just providing it in a little bit of a different way, a modified way, and that's part of that happening within that educational space. And you can look at it. The next program that we're kind of evaluating is once again is going to happen on the high school side in our Woods class. We're starting to produce a lot of cutting boards, and we just purchased a CNC laser to where we're going to produce a stock set of cutting boards of different shapes, sizes, whatever. And then staff in the community can now purchase the personalization. So we will design, if you want a name put across it and give it for a birthday or a gift or a Christmas gift, we'll laser etch that into the item. And then it's the same thing you would be able to get on an Etsy store. So we're doing that, just going to be it's just a little bit different of a fashion.
Do your students track their hours or their service toward the 60-hour internship? I guess where I'm going with this is the CCPEs and the 60-hour internship experience, so that they can check the boxes to get that pathway endorsement.
And so that's where, for like our vocational courses, they're 2.5 hours long. We end up with about 540 hours of available time throughout the year. We're trying and get away from that 60-hour target and get to that full integration. Because even if it's a 1-hour course, you're going to have 180, classroom hours throughout the year for that course. If you get that full integration, you're going to get way more than the 60 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So we right now with that Woods class and those cutting boards, it's not something they're doing every day. It's not even something they're doing every week. They produce a batch, and then for the next couple of days they're getting the names and batching those out. We're not fully to a full integration piece yet, but we found a product that we can make, and we want to see some success from it. The next step is, all right, cutting boards and personalization was great. What else can we tweak in this class to use the same skills that we've been doing to add in that work-based learning? So it's happened slowly. We'd like to keep it organic. And that's kind of what we've seen over the course of a year to 3 years. We're able to build these work-based experiences into the course to where it becomes, that's just the mindset that happens in that classroom after you get over your basic instruction.
Okay, can I dig a little deeper?
Absolutely.
All right. So in your school-based enterprises, let's say in the automotive program, would you mentioned like the 300 plus hours, would you document all of those hours a student was in the semester or year-long course, or would you, like the first few weeks when you're covering safety and basic procedures, and then only document the hours during the school-based enterprise portion of the class? That makes sense.
we only document essentially, like I said, we call it live work. So when we hit that live work status, we're not viewing that initial training portion. And now there's still training going on while the live work is going on. We'll have a staff car on a lift, and a student, let's say they're changing brakes, and they get in there and they get stuck on a bolt, or they run into some other issue. That's when our staff member comes over and they're asking questions like, hey, what's this? He's like, well, whether they've covered it yet or they haven't covered it yet, he's going to give them that demonstration right there, usually calling the entire class over and saying, hey, we haven't seen this a whole bunch in the shop yet. I want everyone over here. We're going to look at it, and we're all going to work through this one together. That's happening out in the workplace too. When we do have a fair amount of students that are in workplaces, and it's the same thing. It's just a different environment, whether it's in the workplace or at the school. That stop, pause, and get some additional training is happening in both places.
Thank you. That's fantastic. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think too,
No problem.
Brad, and to the others who are thinking about that 60 hours, right? And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have 36 weeks in a school year, right? And you do at least 2 hours of live work like each week. You know what I mean? You're even at the bare minimum, you're doing 2 hours a week. You're really going to hit that 60 hours. But if almost every day is like a half hour of live work, then to your point, Joe, like you're really meeting that full integration and that piece there. So.
Yeah, and outside of we usually have about a initial 2 to 4 week period of where we're not performing any live work at all. But after that, the way that the class looks for most of these programs is it's a 5, 10, maybe 15-minute discussion with our instructor of, hey, this is safety protocols. We always hit those every single day, but then, hey, this is, these are the jobs that we have coming in today for the auto shop, or this is what, we're going to be working on the house today. It's raining, so we're going to be inside, finishing out the electrical or hanging drywall. Or if it's nice outside, it's like, hey, we got to get this yard graded, grass seed put down. In the preschool, hey, this is our week's lesson plan. These are the things that we're going to hit. We have nice weather this week, so we're going to take the kids outside for 3 of the 4 days, and we're going to have field day out on the track with the little kids. So it's when it comes down to it, I mean, we're blowing the roof off of the 60 hours. So that's why I say is don't focus on the 60, crawl, and then just go full bore and trying to get that full integration. That way you're every single day has that mindset of, hey, this is school, but they also really get into that business mindset of this is work.
So Joe, it's Cassie from the Valleys region. So
Hey, Cassie.
how are you? So how have you so I love all this school-based enterprise stuff. I think it's allows for students that have barriers to work-based learning to get their work-based learning done in school, just like kind of started this presentation with like your why. What I'm concerned about is that every CTE lab like space or instruction is suddenly going to be called school-based enterprises, and they're not. Of my 2 career centers, the one career center has always worked on live work. I don't know that just like makes it a school-based enterprise. I feel like there are other things. So how have you like coached your teachers through seeing that there's like a step up, like this is lab time, instructional time, but like to take it and for me to code it as a school-based enterprise, as work-based learning, like is there a set of expectations you have for them, a way to enhance? Because that's what I would like to develop for my region, because I feel like I'm starting to get a lot of people being like, oh, what I do is a school-based enterprise, and what I do, and I'm like, whoa, let's back up here. We want to do these things with integrity, and we want to make sure that what we say. So do you have anything like this is how to take your program from how it's kind of looked at the Career Center for a while, and these are the enhancements I would want to see to say it's a school-based enterprise? Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. So once again, it's pretty organic. Everything that we have that works really good is because of our staff. And the great thing about our staff is when it comes to the industrial tech classes that we offer, every single one of our staff comes from industry. So having that knowledge of the industry is tremendously important. And they all still work in the industry as well too, whether it's weekends, summers, things like that. So having that connection is a big deal of why we're able to be successful. And then having business support. The amount of businesses that we have in to our facility every single year has skyrocketed. And every time we have someone in, we're either myself or our staff are always asking, what do you need? What do you want to see from your employees? And it's just that integration of the industry needs and then knowing the business side, because we can send a student out that is a great carpenter, but if they don't have the communication skills to work on a team, then they're going to struggle in the industry. If they don't realize that every time they drop those last 4 nails out of their nail gun, that's money that's being dropped on the ground, that they don't have that mindset to, hey, instead of doing that, let's save those and you can break them apart and use them as singles with a hammer. That's what kind of those things right there, when we talk about, hey, this is what will make this business more money. How to be a good employee. The more money you can make your boss, the more money you're going to get paid. So that's how we kind of differentiate is we're weaving in the business connections, our industry connections, and then the financial connections of each industry.
I think too a lot, Cassie, about like that student ultimate experience, right? So like when I think about the story I share when I was in college and I interned at the Shedd Aquarium and I was like, whoa, I don't want to do this, but like I never would have known I didn't want to do it until I actually interned and was like handling fish, right? And so I think there's this piece too, like, does your experience like help a student understand that they do or don't want to do it? Does it feel different than a lab or a class, right? If they don't feel like they're actually building a house or they're actually like teaching young children, like then they're not really going to know. They're neither going to confirm or deny that that's what they want to do, right? Like I could have done labs with fish all day in class. They were very structured, right? And I still would have been like, this is cool. And then suddenly I'm having to like feed a sea turtle. And I was like, no, right? So it's like, how do you really just that student experience ultimate, what does that feel like to them? And I think your teachers could really think about that intentionally.
And that's, for our K-12 teacher prep program, this is the first year that we've had it in place. We put it in place to help fill staffing needs for our school district and the districts that feed into us. And kind of as we built that program, the first thing we looked at was what is the experience of a high school student that wants to become an educator? What does that pathway look like for them? Well, for the first 2 years, they're never in a classroom. They're never experiencing the career that they want. So the way we designed our program was, hey, we're going to have these dual credit, benchmarks that we're going to hit to help get some of that college credit to you. But then as many days as we possibly can, and it worked out to be about 70 this year, we're putting you in a school, pairing you with a teacher, and you're going to have this essentially student teaching experience, because we want you to find out now if you want this job versus 3 years down the line when you get into a classroom finally, and you're like, man, this is different than high school. I really don't like this. And we're pairing that with some scholarships. So we have a scholarship branded just for Collinsville students, to where we're given 4 to 5 per year. It's $1,000 every year that they're in school, a guaranteed interview if there's a job opening. If they are hired for that position, that then comes with a signing bonus. So just another way to, it's not a purchase service, but I mean, we could also talk that student teaching experience is a, almost a work-based enterprise.
Heather, real quick, and Joe, I wanted to point out like that idea that you mentioned about it being just something different than that school experience, right? And I think one of the conversations that comes from that is that experience with the community as a part of that. And so I'm just curious, Joe, is there certain experiences where you're just like, our community members are making this such a different experience? Or is there something that you see in maybe the ones that look close to a school-based enterprise where it's like that questionable, like this is kind of like one, and the ones that really kind of stand out, like when it comes to that community aspect?
Yeah, the one that has the biggest community aspect is our preschool, and it brings out 1,000 positives, but there are also negatives that come with, because it's pretty deeply ingrained within the community, and so we have to take the good with the bad on it. In terms of the live work, we're very selective on, especially on the automotive side, of what community work we take. And that usually it's a conversational piece with either our instructors and that community member or myself. We do really, really great work. It's not as fast as what, someone taking their car to a mechanic shop will be. This is students, they only have 2.5 hours. So if it's a full-on engine rebuild, that would take a shop, 2-3 days. It's probably going to take us 2 to 3 weeks. And so they have to be willing and able to sign on for that timeline. And if they are willing and able to sign on for that timeline, and we then have the time to provide the service, they're going to get a great service at a very discounted rate. So that's kind of the give and take of that. We have found, as the automotive industry has changed, less community members are willing and able to especially if it's a large project, to not have their vehicle for a couple weeks, especially in our community where it's maybe that's the only vehicle they have. So in those instances, we would love to be able to, get them out of a tight spot. But it's got to almost be the perfect scenario in that instance. And then our building trades program, that's kind of a cool one that, we put a little plaque in each home that says the class that it was built by and when it was sold. And so right now, there's 23 houses across the community that have been built by the students of CAVC over the course of almost 50 years, and so that's a pretty cool community building experience right there in itself. And we hear anecdotal stories from community members. Oh, I live in a building trades house, and it's still doing great. So those are kind of those are some of the cooler experiences.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love the plaque. I almost think about too, like, gotta get a partnership with like a rental car company, right? So they can drop their cars off. Well, thank you again so much, Joe. And I know, like, those of you who might have more questions, Joe and all the work they do at Collinsville is just incredible. And so I know would be happy to, I'm volunteering you up, Joe, I guess, but to answer additional questions that you have.
Feel free to shoot an email. I'll get back to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, and excited to continue to learn from you all. The vending machine, there's this vending machine I still need to check out. Forget exactly where it is in Chicago, but they sell like art. So like people will make, necklaces or a little canvas or something, and you can buy local artist work from a vending machine. So I'm excited to check it out still at some point here in Chicago, but wanted to make a note here, kind of some closing items. We have 2 more IWIN sessions coming up. One of them is going to be on regional team-based challenges and education, manufacturing, and health sciences. And I'll put this link in here one more time, just because all these links are in here. And then we also have a piece on supporting young women in manufacturing. We have a big initiative going on right now, supporting manufacturing pathways across the state. And we're going to have communities sharing about what they're hearing from their female high school and college students about what they want to see to be better engaged in this field. But we also have a resource with some best practices, guidance, templates, tools, all kinds of things, as we've been on our own listening and learning tour about, really high quality models for engaging young women in the manufacturing field. So very excited for that. Just other pieces here, some of you all were able to attend or heard about. We have a transportation work group that's happening through our Success Network Policy Committee, and they are going to be really diving into like work-based learning and those barriers there with transportation and making some recommendations. I also wanted to highlight the sessions archive. I know there's some folks here too who are leading the team-based challenge writing workshops. Those are at no cost, right? So if that's a piece that you or your teams are interested in, definitely check out that link there. Thank you all again for absolutely everything.